He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J. Loren Norris.
I remember in middle school, probably one of the most clever people I've ever met in my entire life was a young man by the name of Arlen Johnson. And I remember Arlen asking me one day, which do you think is a bigger problem in the world? Ignorance or apathy? At the time, I had no idea what either one of those two words really meant. I mean, I'd heard them before, I didn't care. And he said to me, that's actually the answer. I said, what do you mean? He said, what do you think is a bigger problem, ignorance or apathy? The answer is, I don't know, and I don't care. And I have to be honest and say, there are a lot of leaders who lead just like that. They don't know, and they don't care. They don't know that they don't know, and they don't care that they don't know. They're perfectly happy, as snug as a bug in a rug right where they're at. Maybe it should be a bug in a rut, or a butt in a rut. Yeah, that rhymes better. They don't know, and they don't care, and that's what I want to talk about today on Leading Leaders. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I can tell you there are a lot of people out there who are leaders, or they claim to be leaders, or they want to be leaders, or they're working to be leaders, and their attitude about the circumstances around them. Apathy is a really kind way of saying it, meaning they're just kind of detached. They're really not deeply concerned with other people's problems. They think to themselves, well, it doesn't concern me, so why would I get involved? It's not my problem. Why should I risk anything, go to trouble for anything, go out of my way for anything, for what is obviously the other guy's problem? See, the challenge with that is, if your neighbor's house is on fire, it's easy to say, well, it's my neighbor's house. I mean, I'd be glad to help my neighbor the best I can, but it's his house, it's his fire, it's his stuff. Why should I concern myself with that? Let me just tell you, as a former firefighter and still a volunteer firefighter, I was a professional firefighter for 5 years in the Air Force and a volunteer since then. Fires don't stay in one spot. Not in your backyard. Not in your barbecue grill unless you're properly containing it. Not in your kitchen. If you throw water in a grease fire, you're going to have a bigger fire, not a smaller fire. But if it's in your neighbor's house and they don't put it out, guess where it's going next? Your house. In fact, it might jump from their roof over to your roof and burn its way right back into your house and destroy your house. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. You think I'm kidding? Just go watch some of the videos of the wildland fires that are going on in California or Colorado. And what you're going to see is that there's a whole lot of fire that's spread. And sometimes those embers, they'll travel up in the fire tornado, the vortex of wind that's caused by the change of temperature because of the fire. And they'll go way up in the air. And when they get way up in the air, the wind will blow them elsewhere. Sometimes 3, 4, 5 miles away, where as yet, there doesn't appear to be a problem. It's not my problem. It's not my fire. And they lead that way. But they forget that problems, like fires, like viruses, like bad attitudes, are contagious. I didn't say contiguous, although there may be some truth in that too, but they are contagious. They spread. And problems like bad behavior, bad attitude, a failure to adhere to policies, a disregard for rules and laws and order and standards, well, those things seep as well. If you're a leader and you have people in your organization who are maybe not on your team, but they're adjacent to your team, and they have a bad attitude about a new policy or a bad attitude about a new product or a bad attitude about a new client base that you're intended to serve, well, there's a really good chance that that bad attitude, just like the wildfire, just like the house fire, just like a virus, is going to spread into your organization. Because trust me, it only takes one conversation over the water cooler, in the break room, around the snack shack, on lunch, over a cup of coffee. One conversation begins to plant seeds, ideas in people's heads that will malign your efforts. And if your attitude is, well, it's not my department, it's not my problem. You, my friend, are playing with a house fire next door, a grass fire that's burning down the street, and you're wondering, will it get to my yard? Well, yes, it's going to get to your yard. What are you going to do when it gets there? It doesn't become your problem when it catches your grass on fire. It became a problem the minute it lit the neighborhood. It's the same with your leadership. And again, I don't care if you're leading a nation, a state, a county, a school board, a team at work, or your family. Leadership goes through all of those things. Everywhere that you have influence, you are a leader, and you are responsible for being aware of the things that are going on around you. Ignorance and apathy are no excuse. So the question you have to ask yourself as a leader is, am I intentionally being misled? Am I choosing to not pay attention to what's going on and what's important? Have I decided within myself that that's not my problem? I'm not going to cope with it. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to address it. I don't have to find the solutions. I'm not responsible. Have you been intentionally misled? Are you intentionally misleading? Or are you just ignorant altogether? You don't want to be involved. Or you can be misled by intent. You can choose to pay no attention. True story. Or you can be misled by indifference, apathy. I know. I don't care. I know there's a problem, but I don't care. See, that's such a fine line, right? I didn't know there was a problem, ignorance, indifference. I really don't care that there's a problem. I know there's a problem, but I don't care that there's a problem. Intent, that's that malicious, almost nefarious way of saying, yeah, I know the neighbor's house is on fire. I might have said it myself. Only a fool sets their neighbor's house on fire, but you know, if you've been in leadership any period of time, you know leaders who've intentionally maligned, maliciously spoken against, sabotaged co-leaders, other team members, adjacent teams in the marketplace, in a relationship. Have you ever seen that, I don't know, go ask your mother kind of a confrontation in a family? Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Misled by intent. I'm intentionally misleading other people on my team. I've been allowed to be misled because someone else has maligned against me. Someone else has cohorted with someone else against me. They've collaborated against me. They've come together with a new idea, but they're not going to share it with my team. Right? You've probably experienced some of those things, same things. Why? Because we're humans, and humans do silly things like that. But the point is, you've got to decide as a leader not to be misled, because you're aware. You're alert to what's going on around you. I choose not to be ignorant. If I smell smoke in the neighborhood, the first thing I'm doing is preparing my house the best I can with a water hose, even if that means to tell my boys, get a hose and soak the roofs, make sure that no embers turn the sprinklers on, get the grass wet, get the bushes wet, make it hard for fire to start here, spray down the wooden fences. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go look for the smoke and find out the source. How close is it? How dangerous is it? Does it matter? Or did somebody just put something stupid on the barbecue grill? See, these are preemptive actions that you can take. And no, it doesn't have to be a house fire or a grass fire in your neighborhood, but it could be relational issues within a team that's adjacent to your team. If you're in sales, you have to work closely with marketing. If you're in sales, you have to work closely with distribution and product. And if you're not aware of the things going on in their team, if their team is burning down and the smoke and embers are rising to the sky and you're not alerting your team to the problems, then you are misleading your team. Maybe by indifference. Not my problem. It's not my team. A friend of mine posted a while back. She actually has two boys that have been involved in motocross for as long as we've known them. They're now semi-pro, I believe, but at minimum, they're on the amateur circuit traveling around the country. But way back when they were elementary, middle school age kids, she came home from work one day, and as she pulled in the neighborhood, she saw this enormous ramp, probably 6-8 feet high, like propped up against something obnoxious like a water heater or refrigerator box. I mean, just way out of the norm. And as she came around the corner, she said, that has got to be the most ridiculous thing. What parent lets their child put a ramp that big in the middle of the street? And for heaven's sake, who's going to jump over that thing? And as those thoughts came through her mouth, she realized, those are my boys and that's my husband. And in her Facebook post, she said, that was the moment I realized this is my circus and those are my monkeys. See, we often forget that the one least expected behavior, the thing that you would think that only happens over there, that my team doesn't do that. You get indifferent to the behavior of your team because you believe my team would never behave that way. Not my family, not my sales team, not my school board, not my local community. I don't have to get involved in that stuff. I trust they'll never do that. And so by indifference, I'm not concerned about it. You do nothing. And the leader becomes misled, which means they're going to mislead everybody that they report to and potentially everybody that reports to them. A leader's got to be not only aware, astutely aware, constantly studying, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and head on a swivel, looking for every potential problem, every potential misunderstanding, listening for the communication and going, okay, I heard you say that, but I'm not sure that that's what you meant by that. Or as Voddie Baucham says, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. That's a powerful observation, one that not every leader makes. So are you, as a leader, misled by intent? Meaning you've actually intentionally pushed back. You know there's a problem in the adjacent neighborhood. You know there's a problem in the adjacent community, the adjacent house, the adjacent department within your organization. Or maybe even there's a problem within the adjacent parts of your industry. Amtrak shut down several courses, tracks, plans, places that their trains would go, several routes closed straight up, in anticipation of a rail union strike. Why? Well, because they have rail union workers. And the last thing they want to do is load a bunch of people on a train and send it several hundred miles away from home, only to find that their conductors and their engineers walk off the train and leave it with people on it hundreds of miles away from home, neither at their destination nor at their home, which means now Amtrak's going to have to foot the bill to get these people home. So in anticipation, they just closed the routes and said, no trains are going to move in anticipation of this. Let's see what happens. That was actually, dare I say, a fairly intelligent move ahead of the problem. But see, again, at all of those levels of leadership, from global to state to national to local to school board to communities to small businesses, The warning signs are there in a lot of ways, and we are not intentional about rearranging our plans and our policies and our purposes and our directions in response to problems we see adjacent to us. Is it an industry-wide issue? Is it a state issue? Is it a school district issue? Where is the problem, and how could you get ahead of it? You can be misled by your own indifference. Not my problem, I'm not getting involved. Or you can be misled by intent because somebody else is deceiving you, maligning you, maliciously attacking you, nefariously going against you and sabotaging your team. You can be misled by any of those things. But if you are aware and you are proactive as a leader, you got your head on a swivel, you're looking for those problems, you're looking for adjacent problems that could bleed into your team. And you're asking yourself, what could I do to get ahead of that? How do I soak the fence, soak the roof, water the grass in anticipation of a neighboring house fire? Because if you're not taking preemptive action, if you're not proactive in that problem, then you're going to eventually be a part of the problem. Is it intentional or is it indifference? That's a question you're going to have to ask yourself. I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.